Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming. This is the College Night for Seniors for the class of 2023. Welcome. We're going to be going over a lot of important and helpful college information, and we're so happy that you can join us this evening. I'm Cheryl Pacheco. I'm the head counselor, and I have students with the last names HB through, HB through LA. Sorry, it's switched so many times over the years, it's hard for me to remember sometimes. And I'm going to introduce Mr. Mua.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Mua here, and I am school counselor for students' last names A through CH. And then I will introduce everyone to Miss Yu.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I am Miss Yu. I'm the support counselor at Amador. I primarily work with students regarding more of their personal, social, and emotional needs, but I'm always happy to join College Night for Seniors just to learn a little bit more about what our seniors are going through during this time.
And hi, everyone. My name is Kim Tran. I am rounding out the counselors presenting this evening, and I work with students' last names S, N through Z. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So for our topic tonight, it's College Night for Seniors. And as you can see, we are going through a lot of information. So unfortunately, we don't have time for questions at this webinar. However, we're going to cover a lot of topics and information. So hopefully we'll answer your questions. And if you have any additional questions, you can always reach out to your students' assigned counselors. So we're going to go over our counselors this evening, community college information, standardized tests, because there's a big update to that, ways to choose major and majors and colleges and all of that application process, transcripts, letters of recommendations, private out-of-state, other application portals, and the UC and CSU process. Next slide, please, Ms. Pacheco.
It's not moving, so hold on.
Oh, no.
I know. Okay. Hold on. Yeah, it's frozen.
Can you go out of present mode and maybe try to go next?
It's like my whole, oh, here we go.
Oh, great.
There it is.
Awesome. All right, and here is a list of our AVHS counselors and support staff. So again, we have Mr. Mua, Ben Mua, who is working with students' last names A through CH. We have Yosari McEntee Ponce. Her caseload is students with last names CI to HA. And for students who work with Ms. McEntee, just note that she did change her last name since last year. So her email address has changed. So please note that. Ms. Cheryl Pacheco, our head counselor, works with students' last names HB to LA. Ms. Jasmine Torres works with students' last names LB to OL. And Ms. Torres has a number 2 in her email address. So please note that when you're inviting her to any of your college applications. Ms. Amanda Maloney works with students' last names OM to SM. And I'm Kim Tran, and I work with students' last names SN to Z, and I also have a number 2 in my email address. So Ms. Yu, Jen Yu is our support counselor. She works with all students. She's wonderful and is here full time for students. Another great resource is Ms. Kimberly Woodworth, our college and career counselor, who's on campus Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We have a fantastic college and career team. They host a lot of events and plan a lot of college visits for students. So be on the lookout for all of those updates on the college and career website. We have Brittany Oldfather and Al Yu as our full-time school psychs. Ms. Ann Straub is our registrar this year, and she processes all of the transcript requests. Our admin support is the wonderful Ms. Athena Duran. And last but not least, we have our wonderful parent liaisons, Martha Escobedo, Ivy Chung, and Svetha Gedem to support with any of your questions. All right. So take out your calendars. There are a lot of important dates to add as we head into the thick of college application season. So this evening is our college night for seniors. Tomorrow evening, we will host a college application workshop in the library from 5:30 to 7. This is open to all students and their families, and you're welcome to come with your computer, open up your applications, and get real live support from our counseling staff in the library tomorrow. So that's from 5:30 to 7. We offer the same support during Wednesday and Thursday access periods for the entire month of October and November. Students can sign up for the Access College workshops on FlexiSketch, but there's no need to RSVP for tomorrow night's college workshop in the library. We hope to host more of the college app workshops later in October and November. Also later in November, we'll have a webinar for our financial aid night, as all California seniors this year are required to submit financial aid information through the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, or the California DREAM Act. Save the date for the Tri-Valley College Fair on Monday, October 24th from 6:30 to 8:30. That's at Granada High School, and representatives from the UCs, CSUs, community colleges, private colleges, out-of-state colleges, vocational schools, and military academies will be available to speak with students and their families. Another important deadline to note is the FAFSA deadline, March 2nd. We also have priority enrollment for our Las Positas Community College, which is in spring of 2023. And the last date to request counselor evaluations for January deadlines is December 2nd. All right, we went over a lot of information already, but we also have our counseling website that is updated with all the latest and greatest news and information to support students with their college applications, with deadlines, very helpful tutorials, and more. So please check out the quick links on the counseling website homepage. It includes college application info for seniors, the application checklist, senior year FAQs, and more. You can also schedule appointments with your assigned counselor on our counseling website. So please take a look there. If you are looking for any questions in the middle of the night, you can also shoot your counselors a quick email as well. And if you've read through our entire website and have more questions, that's okay. Come see us during Access. Again, we're going to be hosting Access workshops every Wednesday and Thursday through October and November. Sign up using FlexiSketch, and we'll have our college application workshop tomorrow evening in the library from 5:30 to 7. So come with your questions and we can give you live support then. All right. Now we're going to head into some information about community college, which is a great option for students after high school. This is a map of the California community college system, and as you can see, we have plenty of options to explore. So the admission and registration for community colleges typically begin in November through March of senior year. There are over 100 community colleges in California, and our local ones include Las Positas in Livermore, Ohlone in Fremont, and Diablo Valley College in San Ramon. Some of our students actually choose to travel for their community college experience and have gone to Cuesta and San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara City College, or Mesa College in San Diego, just to name a few. These community college campuses also offer dorms and housing that provide a great college experience with options to transfer. So do take a look at your options for community college. There are no requirements to register. Students either have to be 18 years old or a high school graduate, and it's an open door policy. You can earn your associate's degree and or transfer to a four-year college. And many community colleges offer tag agreements, which is the transfer agreement transfer admission guarantee with specific CSUs, UCs, and private schools. So every community college is different, but the tag offers, again, that guarantee that you're automatically admitted to specific colleges or private schools. For the very, very competitive schools like Berkeley or UCLA, they have recommended courses and grades that increase your chances of admission should you want to try and transfer to one of those competitive four-year colleges. You can always talk to your community college counselor to transfer and any of the specifics of their tag agreements. Again, highlighting some of our local community colleges, we have Les Po. A lot of our students actually have taken classes there concurrently. We have Ohlone College. We have Diablo Valley College. And then shout out to a recent Amador Valley graduate that was featured on the Les Po website. So again, this community colleges just offer a great post-high school experience for students looking to save money, those who want to stay closer to home, explore more of their interests and passions before attending a four-year institution. Okay, so we're going to go over a bit of the latest with standardized testing now. This year is very different. So most California colleges have waived the SAT and ACT testing requirement. And some have just said they won't even factor them into admission, even if you have them. So that's really important to note. So if you have your SAT or ACT scores, you know, a lot of the application process might not even require them or ask for them. There is a website that shows test optional colleges called Fair Test. And again, for the most accurate information, do check with the colleges, because even though some out-of-state and private colleges are also not requiring them for admission, others are still asking for them as part of their application. So it really just depends on what colleges and schools you're interested in. If you have your test scores, and if you are applying to a school that is either test optional or still requires test scores, you must send the official scores to those colleges, either through College Board for the SAT or the ACT student for the ACTs. All right, and like mentioned, the UCs and CSUs no longer use ACT or SAT examinations in the admissions eligibility for all of their campuses. So if accepted at a CSU, the test scores are just used as one way to determine placement in any of the prerequisite classes for math or communication courses. And again, this is something that they'll look at after admission to the college. It has nothing to do with the determination of whether a student is eligible or can be offered admission to the college. The UCs may use the scores as an alternative method of fulfilling minimum requirements for a course placement after you enroll. And again, considerations are only made after acceptance. So if you do have SAT or ACT scores and you want colleges to have them, again, you would send them directly to the college from the SAT or ACT website. Allow 2 weeks for test scores to process. Some colleges that require testing or are testing optional will have a different deadline perhaps to send in those scores. So again, you want to take a look specifically at the college and the applications to see what is required. Similarly to the overall SAT, the SAT subject tests are no longer given. And then again, if you want to share your test scores to UCs or CSUs to have them use that for other subject requirements, you are able to do that, but they will not be looked at until after you've been accepted. All right, so After going through kind of like all the updates with those options, so our students who may not still, are still thinking or debating on what major to apply, here are some tips. Take a deep breath. Take the pressure off yourself. Start with your strengths and interests. Use Zello to find careers and majors, and we'll explore Zello in just a little bit. Find new ways to explore your different passions and interests, like either take a class, shadow, interview, volunteer, and then research the majors at your colleges too, to see what's a part of the curriculum and a part of the major exploration. Zello is a platform offered to all students to help with career and college exploration. Students are able to sign in using the Clever platform, and we also have a link to log in through the counseling website. Next slide, please. Great. So this is what it looks like when you log in. We encourage students to fill out their profile, kind of answer all of the different personality tests, learning styles, passion, skills that students currently have, and then they're matched with careers that will fit alongside their personality and learning style. So it's a great platform, really user-friendly. So you can just kind of click around, search, and kind of see what careers are available to you. Here is kind of the where after you've been matched with certain careers, you can start exploring more of the details and the variety of options suited to your interests. You can research specific information such as salary range, work-life balance. You'll also learn from individuals who are currently in the field, and they give a great snapshot of kind of what that would look like. They also match you with colleges too, that have majors specializing in those fields. And yes, so once again, we're covering a lot of information, and it may feel really overwhelming. Students, you may be in the midst of applying right now, so don't freak out. Just take a deep breath and take your time. We're going to cover a lot of what you can expect and plan for, and remember, you're going to land somewhere great and right for you. So the general timeline and overview of the college application process typically starts right now in October, November. The majority of applications are submitted between November and January. And if students are applying early decision or early action, you may get notified by December or even earlier. Typically, students applying for regular decision will be notified by March. And then we have May 1st as our college decision day. By then you will have heard from a lot of your schools that you've applied to, and it will be an exciting time to make a decision. All right, so that's step one, where we're at right now in October, is just deciding where and when to apply. And if you're not sure yet, that's okay. On our website, we have a lot of tutorials and videos to kind of help guide you in that process. And you can also come to the counseling office and speak with your counselor. Typically right now, students are coming to see us to just kind of ask like what colleges to apply for and whether to aim for early action or regular decision. Typically early action, which is not legally binding, offers a smaller pool of applicants. However, with every option, there are pros and cons. So with a smaller pool of applicants, there may be more competitive applications that you're going up against. And that's just something to consider generally when you're making your decisions. Early decision, ED, is a legally binding contract with the school. So again, pros and cons. This means you might be notified earlier on if you're really aiming for this school, which is really exciting. However, that means you must attend that school if you're offered admission. So choose wisely, because you're then unable to consider any other colleges you may be thinking about or wanting to apply to. Check out the website, check out all the tutorials, and then start finding all the different resources to help you out. Step 2, once you've collected and researched a variety of schools, it's now time to narrow down your choices, get organized with your research. Usually I advise my students to pick a handful of reach schools, target schools, safety schools, research all of the different requirements of those colleges and take into consideration how that's going to impact whether a school will be determined as a reach or a target for you. So for example, take into consideration the major you'd like to apply to. Some schools have really highly impacted and competitive majors, while other schools just have an overall impacted campus. And that's going to affect you in terms of like what you're hoping to gain out of that process. And if that's the case, research alternative majors, right? Research alternative schools and options before you start the application. Use a checklist to stay organized like this one, which is on the website. We recommend that students use something that is helpful for them to kind of keep their thoughts organized, to keep track of their research and kind of stay on top of like where their interests really are. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be shopping for the colleges as much as the colleges are shopping for applicants. So you want to be selective with your choices as well. Be on the lookout for important application requirements, such as test scores if needed, teacher recommendations, transcripts, and other deadlines. So we'll review the process now on how to request transcripts and counselor evaluations for your college applications. So right now we're using Parchment. Parchment.com is a website where you can order your official Amador Valley High School transcript for your application. And they charge $4.15 per transcript. So you really just want to request your transcript for the colleges that require it. Many private colleges will use Common App as their application portal. And if you're going to be using Common App, you only have to request your transcript once for all of the schools you're applying to on Common App. For colleges that have their own separate application portal, for example, Georgetown, MIT, you'll still have to request your transcript through Parchment. So if you have like a contact email, you can send your transcript there if they accept electronic delivery and list that email as the recipient, or you can also request your transcript to be sent by mail. For the UCs and CSUs, you do not need to send transcripts as part of the application. They typically request that after you're accepted at the end of the year so they can see your senior year grades. So linked here is a video on how to connect your Common App with Parchment so that you can request that transcript. So this presentation will also be available on the counseling website. So you can take a look at that at your own time and review all of the different links and the videos that are embedded in the presentation. So this video specifically will walk you through the process of requesting a transcript to your Common App. And right now, if you're inviting your counselors to Common App, they will reach out to you with that information in an email as well. So then you have that information readily available. For any other separate application portal, again, like Georgetown or UT Austin, you would just follow the steps in that application, still request your counselor to be a part of it. And then if you have any questions on how to get your transcript there, it's going to be through Parchment, but we can walk you through that as well. All right, so for the counselor evaluation, students can complete a form on the counseling website to assist your counselor in your evaluation. You'd want to speak to your counselor and email them to request the counselor evaluation at least 2 weeks before your earliest deadline. So it gives us enough time to thoughtfully create the evaluation for you. And be mindful of certain college deadlines and of using Common App or separate college portals. Invite your counselor, update them with the deadlines for each of the colleges you plan to apply to. And again, Really important, but December 2nd is the last date to request a counselor evaluation for any January deadlines. Linked here is another helpful tutorial to walk you through the counselor evaluation request process. And rounding out my slide here is teacher letters of recommendation. So some helpful tips on if you need a teacher letter of recommendation: speak with your teacher in person and request a letter at least 2 weeks before your earliest deadline, again, to give them time to prepare and to thoughtfully craft a recommendation for you. Prepare a resume if that's something that they're requesting, or anything else that they're requesting to help them with the letter. And keep in mind at least 2 to 3 teachers to ask, just in case. Ask the teacher on Common App, or invite the teacher onto your Common App and any other online portal. Generally, in terms of teacher letter recommendations, more is not better to kind of add to your application. So you want to just have at least one really, really good one. And again, just have a couple other teachers in mind if the teacher you're hoping to ask is just not available to write you a letter. UC and CSU do not require counselor or teacher evaluations. All right, I'm going to pass it on over to Mr. Mua.
All right. So as Ms. Tran was saying, you've gone through step 1, you've decided where and when to apply, and then you're getting organized. And now we're on step 3. Now you got to get to work. So this next portion, we're going to go over a few application platforms and just kind of get a better understanding of what the platforms offer, what schools you can apply to, and kind of get a breakdown of the CSUs and the UCs as well. All right, so our first college application platform is Common App. A lot of our students at Amador Valley utilize this college application portal. And so many private colleges and many out-of-state colleges are linked to the Common App. And so students can add up to multiple colleges outside of California or certain private colleges. And it's one portal for multiple college applications. And as Ms. Tran did mention, you'll request your transcript. And then once the transcript is uploaded, that transcript will go towards those many colleges that you're wishing to apply for. And so to break down more of the Common App, Common Application is frequently used, and it's open since August 1st, and it's used by over 900 different colleges. Common App has one required 650-word essay, but certain colleges might require more supplemental essays on top of the Common App essay. So typically these schools require the teacher recommendations, council recommendations, and a school report, as well as transcripts. And so this bottom portion down here is important information to add to the Common App. And so it's a breakdown of our senior class size, the ranking that we do. So we don't rank students based on it's based on a 4.0 GPA scale, based on weighted GPAs. And then it gives the school information and the senior classes entry and exit dates. All right, so aside from the Common App, there are other application platforms, though most colleges use the Common App. Some colleges, or certain colleges, for instance, the University of Washington and a lot of the Texas public universities, they require going onto their own separate application portal and applying from there. And so other applications to be aware of, as I mentioned, Texas, MIT, and Georgetown. And also keep in mind, submitting the transcript, you'll have to submit a separate transcript to those colleges that you're applying to, aside from the Common App. All right, so that's the Common App, and that's a few of the other college application platforms. Now let's get into some of the UCs and the CSU applications. So for the UCs, the University of Californias, and the CSUs, the California State Universities, they use the A through G requirements, which is the college entrance requirements. And it's a set of 15 courses that high school students take throughout their high school journey. So to break it down, the A, your history and science courses, B, your English courses, C, your math courses, D, your lab sciences, E, the world language, F, your VAPA courses, and G, the college prep electives. And then highlighted in the yellows, those are the required years that students need to complete of the certain A through G. And then for the UCs, though they require the certain amount of years, they also recommend an additional year for math, an additional year for a science course, and additional recommendation for a world language course. So if students are planning to apply to UCs, keep in mind the recommended extra year of those required courses. All right, so to calculate the GPA, so you got to do some math, okay? But don't worry, you don't have to write it out. There's a cool link here highlighted in the blue. If you can click on that link, make sure you have your transcript though, and then you'll be able to use this GPA calculator to help calculate your GPA. So UCs and CSUs, they only look for your sophomore and your junior year grades. So when you're looking at your transcript, disregard the 9th grade year and go ahead and input your sophomore and your junior grades. And they're looking only for the A through G courses. And if you notice on your transcripts, the classes are followed by the parentheses P. That indicates a college prep course. Some courses might be weighted, such as the honors courses and the AP courses. So meaning that those grades are worth a little extra compared to regular college prep classes. And so keep in mind that when you are inputting your classes, the UCs and CSUs do cap your AP and honors courses to 8 semesters, so 4 years. So if you're taking more courses than that, they cap it at 8. All right, so as mentioned, utilizing the GPA calculator can save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches, okay? So keep in mind to just utilize that when you're submitting to the CSUs and the UCs. And then once you get that number, that will be your GPA that you submit to all the CSUs and the UCs. So to help out, or regular college prep courses, the values of the A's are 4 points, the values of the B's, 3 points, C's, 2 points, D's, 1 point, F's are 0 points. For weighted courses as APs and honors courses, the A value is worth at a 5 point and then going down from there. All right, so this is a breakdown of the differences between the UC and the CSU application. So as you see, the grade point averages, both CSUs and UCs, again, they look at the sophomore and the junior year. The SAT and the ACT tests are not required. Extracurricular activities are needed to be reported to the applications. And keep in mind that Cal Poly is slow and CSUs as part of the supplemental factors. So certain colleges might have additional supplemental questions to answer. There's no applications for the CSUs, and for the UCs, there are 8 prompts that you get to choose from, and you have to complete 4 of those PIQs. And so keep in mind, it's a 350 word max. So you have to be precise with your description of yourself. And then you'll get to look through the prompts, the 8 prompts, and then choose 4 that resonate with yourself. Transcripts are not required, and they're most likely not required. Application, these links will take you to the applications for each CSU and to the UCs. Now, very important, keep in mind of the deadlines, okay? So October, the CSU applications just opened. Now, the UC applications have been open since August, but keep in mind that the deadlines, many of the deadlines are coming up in the end of November. So application information, part 1 of 2. All right, so when you're filling out the application form, it's going to ask you a few questions, and then as incoming college freshmen, you'll enroll as fall 2023 as freshmen with or without the college credits, depending on if you've taken college credits. You'll select the CSU select goal, first bachelor degree, and then you're apply for application fee waivers directly on the applications. So it'll have an option for you to select a fee waiver, and then enter the names of all the schools that you wish to apply for, and you'll have to input your grades from your transcript. So make sure you have your transcript handy. And if students are not aware, Amador Valley is on a semester system, and the high school enrollment spans from August 2019 to August 2023 for our current seniors right now. All right, so part 2 of the application information. So be sure to use your transcript. So all of our seniors should have a copy of their transcript. So when you're inputting those grades, follow your transcript, right? Don't try to remember, or don't try to input something that you might think you've gotten in the past. So be sure to have your transcript and input as is on your transcript when you're putting on that application. Okay, all right, next slide. All right, so after completing your application, be on the lookout for an acknowledgement email or a letter, okay? So it's very important that you check your emails after applying, because if you don't, you might miss out on a lot of valuable information from those colleges. So the acknowledgement, the different campuses that you applied to, they'll be sending those, and you have to create your student portal for each individual CSU or UC. And so they're going to send important information such as student orientations, acceptance, and just valuable information. So be sure to set that up and be sure to monitor it on a regular basis. Because again, you don't want to miss out on important information, and you want to be on top of the information that you need. All right. So around January and February, you'll get a notification from your student portal, not your email, but your student portal, about certain missing items that the colleges might still need. So be sure, again, be on the lookout for that. The student portals will also be used to share other information such as orientation, housing information, and etc. All right, so on the bottom, very important, it's noted, if you do not check your specific portals regularly, you may miss out on deadlines specifically for you to submit something, and your application will be automatically denied. So you don't want to be denied. So again, it's important to check your portals, all right? Okay, so you've applied and you've answered some of the questions. Certain colleges or certain college majors require supplemental questions. So be sure to do your research, be sure to look into the major and see what they require. So for an example, if you're applying to Cal Poly SLO and you're looking to get into their graphic design major, that specific major at Cal Poly requires a portfolio requirement. So you'll need to create a portfolio for that specific major if you want to get into that major. Another example for UCLA, a supplemental questionnaire or supplemental things that they need for their program, for their nursing program, they'll require certain nursing supplements. And so some majors have different deadlines. Some majors have certain qualifications. So when you're applying, be sure to do your research and be sure to know what's required and what's needed. All right, so this is a cool map of all the CSU, the 23 CSUs throughout the state of California. If you guys see right in the center, that is Fresno. That is where I attended, Fresno State, right? All right, but yes, so there's 23 campuses throughout the entire state of California, and there's plenty to choose from. All right, so getting into the CSUs. So For the 23 campuses, there's one application. But for the different campuses that you apply to, you'll have to submit a separate application for each CSU. So if I'm applying to CSU East Bay, I'll have to submit the application to CSU East Bay. If I want to reapply to Fresno State, I'll have to send a separate application to Fresno State. And if I want to apply to a different CSU, Sacramento, I'll have to submit a separate application. All right. So keep that in mind when you're applying to these CSUs. Though it's the same application, you'll input the information, and most of your information that you input will be saved. But then keep in mind, you have to send a separate application to each CSU. All right. So the windows for submission just opened in October. And keep in mind the deadline again. It's coming up in November 30th. Highly recommended to submit your application during Thanksgiving week, not on Thanksgiving Day, but suggested Thanksgiving week, because you don't want to wait until the 30th to submit the application, because there could be a lot of things that go wrong and the website might crash on you, and you don't want to do that. All right, so the total cost for CSUs on average ranges from $24,000 to $34,000 per year. That's with room and board. Average tuition and fees average around $7,500 a year. No essays are required. No letters of recs are required. No subject tests. CSUs and UC's GPA, again, they look at your 10th grade and 11th grade with the minimum of a 2.5 GPA to qualify for the CSUs and UCs. And each application is $70. So submitting an application for each CSU that you apply to, $70. Okay, so eligibility and admissions. So as mentioned, 2.5 GPA qualifies you for admissions to the CSUs, and impacted colleges and impacted majors may use supplemental factors for admissions. So again, the supplemental factors might be different essay questions. They might require certain documents, and so GPAs below the 2.5 may be evaluated with additional supplemental factors. So if you're applying to a CSU and you don't meet that 2.5 mark, then you'll have to provide additional, I guess, essays or additional documentations and information for the colleges for them to consider your application. So there's good links here as well. Priority application deadlines. All right, so again, so these are, again, the deadlines for many of the colleges, November 30th. And after November 30th, certain CSUs have certain deadlines. So it's important for you to do your research on which CSU that you're applying to understand when their deadlines are and what else is needed. So keep that in mind. Some of the CSUs are impacted, and some certain majors at certain CSUs are impacted. So if you're not understanding the impacted part, that means there might be at full capacity at the campus, or certain majors are highly impacted. So meaning it's going to be really hard for you to enroll into that major. Because I know for Fresno State, an example was social work was a highly impacted major. And so students were not able to enroll. And so just keep that in mind. And again, you got to be sure to do your research. All right, so the CSU redirection. So this part, a process that ensures that applicants eligible for admissions who cannot be accommodated at their first choice campuses are redirected to another CSU campus. So let's say you really wanted to attend CSU East Bay, but then you weren't admitted to that college. And so they'll give you a redirection, and you'll get the opportunity to choose another CSU. So this applies to all CSU eligible undergraduate applicants who have not been admitted to any CSU campuses yet. So eligible applicants will be notified via email to be redirected after April 5th and directed to Cal State Apply to provide responses and select non-impacted campuses first and second choices. So be sure to have, a few options after your first option, right? So you don't want to just stick with one option, one college. So to ensure your application is redirected to your first choice, please respond to your email as quickly as possible. So again, it's important to pay attention to your email and your student portal. All right, so the California Promise Program. So for this enables specific numbers of CSU campuses to establish pledge program for entering first-time students who are both interested and able to complete baccalaureate degrees in 4 years. So to apply to this program, they want you to, I guess, pledge to this program that you will complete your degree in 4 years. So to submit an application for CSU Promise Program and earn your degree in 4 years, apply with the CSU application. And the criteria for qualifying for the California Promise Program, students from low income or is Pell Grant eligible, first generation college students, or from a community underrepresented in college attendance. So those are certain criteria that will qualify you for this program. All right, CSU scholarship information. So students who have completed scholarship applications for each CSU can apply to this. And there is a link to here. So go ahead and check that out when you can. So all CSU campuses offer scholarships. And so scholarships help fund your college experience. And there will be certain criteria that you will have to do when you apply. So go ahead and check out the links and see what's needed to apply for these scholarships. All right, and the freshman application checklist. So as high school seniors and entering as college freshmen, be sure to look over the application checklist and be sure to see what's needed and just keep in mind of the things, all right? So you need your unofficial transcript to input your grades, your social security numbers, your citizenship status, a credit card or a PayPal account to pay for the applications, your annual income of your parents, educational programs or work extracurricular participation information needed to apply for EOP if you're applying for EOP, your certain test scores, and your California statewide student ID. If you don't know where to find that, send your counselors an email and we can help you identify your California ID. All right, so again, this is the link to apply to the CSUs and certain information. If you have questions about CSUs, you can contact them as well.
Okay, so I'm going to start talking about the University of California. So the University of California has 9 different UC campuses. They go as far north as Davis and as far south as San Diego. And I'm going to give a shout out to UC Santa Barbara, which is where I attended. Go Gauchos. And Kim, do you want to give a shout out to your UC school?
Yeah, I went to UC San Diego, so go Tritons.
So now, Mr. Moa, Ms. Tran and I have given our school shout outs. Miss Yu, do you want to give a shout out to your school?
Sure. I had the pleasure to attend UC Davis. Go Ags.
Okay, so we're going to move on to information about the UCs. So like I said, there are 9 UC campuses. There is one UC application, and actually you send the one application in one time. It's going to go to all the UC campuses that you apply to. So unlike the CSUs, you don't have to send an individual application in for each school you're applying. You're just going to select all the UCs that you're applying to and your major, and then you're going to go ahead and submit your application. So the application opened August 1st, but this is new this year. You can submit it between October 1st and November 30th. Prior to this year and all the years prior, it used to be November 1st to November 30th. So they're giving you a whole month early to submit your application. Like Mr. Moa said with the CSU application, you do not want to wait until November 30th to submit your application, because what happens when everyone logs into the same website at the same time? Yes, the website crashes. It creates a lot of stress and anxiety for everyone involved. So please do not let that happen to you. Ideally, if you can get your application done before Thanksgiving break or before Thanksgiving, that would be ideal. Then you can have a nice, relaxing Thanksgiving break. And you'll know that your application's already been submitted. It requires 4 essays, 350 words max. The minimum for each essay is 250 words. Total cost is an average of about $41,000, and that's if you're living on campus. Tuition is $14,733, and they said that it would be the same cost for tuition for the next 5 years, so you don't have to worry about an increase. Mr. Moa went over the UC GPA that they use for eligibility, which is your A through G courses from grades 10 and 11. The AP classes, like he said, are weighted, and there are a handful of honors weighted courses that are weighted as well. If you're wondering which honors courses are weighted, you can see on your transcript that it has an HP next to it. If you didn't pick up your free transcript during Access when we did our presentations for our our seniors, you can go ahead and come by the counseling office to pick up your free copy of a transcript, because you're going to want to use that for all of your college applications to make sure that they're accurate. No letters of recommendation and no resumes need to be sent to the UCs, so you don't need to worry about that. And I'll go over tips in just a second. How UC applications are being reviewed, so that will be on the next slide, and you're going to look at the UC's specific breakdown of their review and their criteria. Most of the UCs use a holistic admissions process, meaning that they look at the application as a whole, and these are the factors that they are going to look at and consider. So for the holistic admissions process, these are the different factors that they're considering. So number one is, and these are in no particular order, but for academic, grade point average, your performance in and number of courses beyond the minimum A through G requirements, UC approved honors courses and advanced courses, eligibility in the local context, that's for California residents only, that's the ELC. And that's where the UCs determine the top 9% of students at Amador, as well as the top 9% of students within the state of California. And you find out whether you've been selected as ELC after you submit your application. You can log back in to your application and click on how is my application being reviewed. And that's where they will let you know whether you've been selected as an ELC student. The quality of your senior year program of study, academic opportunities in California high school. So what's been available and what have you taken advantage of? Outstanding performance in one or more academic subject areas. So those are the academic factors that they're considering. And then for non-academic, achievement in special projects, improvement in academic performance, special talents, achievements and awards, participations in educational preparation programs like AVID, academic accomplishments in light of life experiences, and geographic location. Some other things that I just want to mention to you as you're working on your college application. Sometimes when you're looking to list your high school, so for us, it would be Amador, and if you've taken any outside courses, you would list the outside schools as schools attended as well. Sometimes it gets a little bit tricky looking up the school, even though it seems like that would be a pretty easy thing to do. I just wanted to give you what our school code is. It's 052495. That seems to be the easiest way to look up a school when you're entering it into the application. If you're wondering for your outside schools what their school code is or their CEEB code, you can always go to the school's UC A through G list, and it's usually located in the upper right-hand corner. When you are selecting an email to choose for your college application, the UC actually recommended not using your school email. For whatever reason, it sounds like a lot of school emails block the UC emails that they try and send out. So they're actually recommending that you don't use your school email. With that being said, make sure that the email that you do use is an appropriate one. So just make sure it's a professional email. And again, one that you check often. You want to make sure that you're not missing a deadline if they email you about an important date that you need to send something in by. Unfortunately, they're not super flexible if you miss a deadline for something. So just make sure that you're checking your email regularly. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next slide. Oh, okay. So I should have warned you before I went to this slide. Do not stress out. I know that the average GPAs look super high and the admit rates look super low. Last year, they had a huge increase in the number of applications that they got. Davis had mentioned that they actually weren't able to admit as many students this past year because they had admitted a large number of students and kind of overshot their goal number the year prior. They're not anticipating that being an issue for this application cycle. I also think we had a lot of kids that due to the pandemic either took a gap year or just waited to apply to a four-year college. So again, don't let this information intimidate you. It's information for you to have and process, but do not use this as a reason not to apply for a school that you're really interested in attending. I will stress to make sure that you apply broadly because you can see that the schools are very competitive. In addition to the median 25 to 75% for the GPAs, some of the schools actually gave us an average GPA, so I just included that in the parentheses for your viewing. Some general application information. So make sure again that you use your free transcript. Don't do your application by memory. If there is an error on your transcript or if you don't record something, that can be grounds for having your admissions be rescinded. So you just want to make sure that you're being very careful. Of course, like if you accidentally made an error, you can contact the UCs that you applied to and fix it. But it's really, really important that you make sure that you list everything completely and accurately on your application. There is a 20-minute inactivity time limit. As you move through the pages, it will automatically save, but if you get up and walk away for a little bit, it will kick you out after 20 minutes, and that's for security reasons. You're going to want to type your personal insight answers in a Word document and then insert it into the application when you're ready. Keep in mind that sometimes the word count for an outside document doesn't match their word count, so just be mindful of that when you paste your personal insight statements into the sections. Just make sure that you double check to make sure your answer is between 250 and 350 words. You can use the help desk for both technical and application questions. And again, make sure you apply broadly. So you're going to want to pick some schools that are your reach or dream schools, a couple target schools, and some safety schools that you think for sure that you can get into. Okay, next slide. So we're going to look at your different activities and awards. And there are different categories that are listed. So you can go ahead and select which award, extracurricular activity, or volunteer or work experience that you want to list your activity in. pick the category that you feel like is the best fit for you. They're not going to judge you on what category you've added something in. It's a good idea to go ahead and write out your different activities that you've been involved in. You want to be able to maximize your information and try to avoid abbreviations or acronyms because they're not going to know what those are. If it's something that's school specific, so like we have the Sims Club, which is students interested in math and science. So that you would want to explain, because unless you're an Amador student, you're not going to know what that club is. But if it's something like you participated in volleyball, you don't need to explain to them what volleyball is. Like they know what volleyball is, but you are going to want to explain to them what your role on the team is, how often you practice, how often you have games, how many years you've been participating in volleyball. If you have a leadership role within that particular team, so maybe you lead the team in warm-ups, or you're organizing team dinners, or you are maybe like the cheerleader on the team and you send like encouraging texts to all your fellow teammates. So they just really want to know about you and what role you play for that particular team. And if there's a leadership role, they like to see consistency. During COVID, they know that you weren't able to participate in most of your extracurricular activities, and they're not going to hold that against you. You are able to include in the description how the activity was impacted by COVID. And then also, you can also list activities while we were sheltering in place, or hobbies that you either continued with or learned. You can list those as activities as well. So like, for example, maybe if you were making masks during the time we were sheltering in place, or maybe you were helping out your grandparents or helping out at home, maybe you learned how to cook while you're at home, or I know some kids learn new instruments. So whatever you did during your COVID time, you can go ahead and include that. Also, I know the spring sports, your freshman year was canceled because of COVID. You can mention that as well. And then sophomore year, most of the sports were canceled. I think they had kind of a shortened season, if I remember correctly, in the spring. So if you were able to participate in a shortened season, then great, you can mention that. If you didn't play because of COVID, totally understandable. You can mention that as well. And any new skills that you have developed or learned during that time, that's all information that would be super helpful to them. So there are 6 categories, and you can list up to 20 different activities, jobs, awards that you've been involved in. And you're going to want to make sure you're choosing experience that have meaning and illustrate interest and or demonstrate leadership. So A through G coursework, other than A through G, we don't have a ton of those. I think leadership probably from your freshman year was still not college prep, but then after that, it was. You don't need to include courses like PE, office assistant, TA, anything like that. If you're like an avid tutor, you could put that in, or a special ed tutor, you can always list that. Or sometimes I know students take classes over the summer that aren't A through G approved, so that could be something that you could list in there too. Educational prep programs, for example, would be AVID. So if you've been an AVID student, you can go ahead and list that in this section. And you can talk about what you learned from AVID, how you've been involved in it. Like, again, if you've had a leadership role, if you've been in there for 4 years. So provide them some information and context. Community service, so consistent participation over time may indicate commitment and dedication. Again, community service is something that you're not paid for. So, and sometimes your community service is related to like a major that you're thinking of pursuing, or a job that you're thinking of pursuing, or maybe it's just an area of interest to you. So You can certainly mention this here in this section, and then depending on which personal interest questions you select, you may be talking a little bit more in depth about that in a later on section. Work experience, you're going to want to make sure that you demonstrate time management, responsibility, and perhaps leadership. So tell us about your job, what your responsibilities are. Obviously, holding a job is definitely shows that you are a hard worker, able to balance your time with your academics, and then that you're a responsible individual. And some jobs just of themselves show integrity and responsibility. So like if you happen to be a referee, that might be something that you would want to mention, because again, it shows that you're a trustworthy person, and you've taken on some pretty large responsibilities as a high school student. Awards and honors. So awards which are significant in nature, and again, give context. So was it a county-wide award, a statewide award, a national award? Indicate a high achievement with significant competition. So like if your sports team won the EBALs or won NCS or won, like I know the cheer team has won national competitions or state competitions, like make sure you mention that. School-based awards are also more meaningful to readers if context is provided. So like you placed 5th out of 500 students to earn an award. Even if you had perfect attendance, that could be super helpful. Extracurricular activities, so continued participation over time indicates passion, commitment, and sometimes leadership. So enter details about each activity. The example that I gave about volleyball, I think would apply in this section. And then also make sure that you include your senior year activities that either you're currently doing or you're planning on doing. Sometimes students forget to include that. And we want to make sure that you're getting credit for your senior year activities that you're continuing to participate in. The description is about 350 words in this section. You can avoid complete sentences. They just want to know your role in the activity. And you can, even though they're looking for what you've participated in grades 9 through 12, if it's an activity that you've done for a long time, so like if you played soccer or an instrument since you were 7 years old, you can include that in the description. You're not going to be penalized if something was canceled due to COVID. And you can add COVID information too in some of the additional comment section, which we'll get to later. So, and in that section as well, you can explain like how the activity changed based on COVID. So like, did you have Zoom practice? Did you have no practice? Were you practicing on your own? And then, like I said before, like how you spent your time during COVID. So if you made masks or you learned how to cook or you are a better baker or how you spent your time, they're interested in hearing about that as well. Make sure you don't use acronyms. I mentioned that before. Explain the name of the clubs or awards so that the person reading it knows what you're trying to describe. Don't list the same activity in multiple areas. There's no reason to do that. They're not like counting up the number of different activities you have in different sections. And again, put them in the correct category that you feel like is the best fit. Again, you won't be marked down for that, but just pick the one that you think is appropriate, but listing it in multiple areas isn't helpful. If you didn't have the time or opportunity to participate in school and or a community activity, volunteered pay employment, explain to the readers why. How else did you use your time instead? Like, was it a choice or a requirement? So for example, are you taking care of younger siblings? Or if you have a grandparent in the house that you're helping out with and you're, or maybe you just have a lot of time that you're spending on homework or you're doing a research project for an internship, like how are you spending your time? And if you weren't able to participate in these other activities, this is your chance to explain why. you can write up to 350 characters to describe your role in an activity. And 250 characters to describe. So I think the 250 actually is if you took an outside course or a non-PUS, a non-A through G course, that they limit that to 250 characters. And then your role in an activity, you can use up to 350 characters. But when you click on the box, it will tell you what the word limit is. Okay, so for UCSD, that's different, and this is UC San Diego. They actually have 8 college choices this year. So they have the university, which is like kind of the umbrella over the 8 colleges. So that's the University of San Diego. And then they would like you to rank the colleges in order for which colleges would be your preference to being attending. So it doesn't impact your admissions to the University of San Diego. You would be admitted through your application. And then once you're admitted, they just look at your rankings for the 8 colleges, and then they place you in the college that you feel like is the best fit. There is 8 colleges this year. Last year it was 7. It's the 8th one is actually called 8th College. There's a spot on the application where you can read about the different colleges, and then you can decide which school would be the right fit for you. Excuse me. You can either drag the colleges up and down as you see fit here, or you can use these little arrows, and they can move the colleges for you. But that, again, is only for University of California, San Diego. So the personal insight questions, these are about getting to know you better, your experience, your interests, your ambitions, your inspirations. So you're going to want to think about it as an interview. This is not your traditional college essay. They want you to use I statements. They want you to talk from your own perspective, and they want you to share more information about yourself. So be open, be reflective, find your individual voice and express it in your personal insight questions. It helps to provide context for the rest of your application. If you feel like there's something in your application that you want to explain more, there are the additional comment section, but there might be a question of the 8 questions that you might want to select to provide more information about something about yourself. And again, it could be one of your extracurricular activities, or address one of the other questions that they ask. So I would recommend using the personal insight guide. I know this is super small to see. We do have a link at the end of the PowerPoint that you can click on so that you can use the worksheet. I would encourage you to kind of brainstorm and write out, maybe pick 4 that you feel like would be the best fit, and then go ahead and try and work through what information you want to provide. So I feel like the worksheet is super helpful. And then again, you'd want to type your personal insight question onto another document, and then you can go ahead and paste it in. So what do you want the UCs to know about you? And this is your chance to tell them in your own words. So again, there are 8 prompts. You're going to respond to 4 of them. There's no right or wrong answer. Like, there aren't 4 special prompts, but nobody's telling you what those 4 are. Really, it's personal choice. So whichever 4 you feel like speak to you, whichever 4 you feel like would give them the most insight about you, that you feel like would be the most appropriate ones for you to answer, are great. There's no right or wrong 4. Each response is limited to a minimum of 250 and a max of 350 words. If I remember correctly, if you go over, I think they cut it off from the top. So that can make it not great. Which questions you choose is entirely up to you. And again, select the ones that are most relevant to your experience and reflect on your individual circumstances. So keep in mind, all questions are equal. None have an advantage over the other. There's no right or wrong way to answer these questions. It's about getting to know your personality, your background, your interests. Remember that the personal questions are just that, they're personal. And the important thing is that you are sharing who you are, what matters to you, and what you want to share with the UCs. Knock on wood, I don't think anyone would plagiarize their personal statements. But if you do, you actually are banned from ever attending a UC. So it's a pretty significant punishment if you get caught plagiarizing your personal statement. So just not that anyone would, but just want to make sure that I recommend that you make sure that you write your own essays yourself, because you certainly don't want to find yourself in that predicament. Okay, personal insight tips. Start early, give yourself plenty of time to prepare. And make sure you give yourself time to make revisions if needed. Again, use I statements. So talk about yourself so that they can get to know you, your talents, your accomplishments. Make sure you proofread and edit. The grammar errors or the spelling errors can be distracting to the reader. They're not grading you on your spelling or grammar, but you just want to make sure that they're reading it easily and they know what you're trying to say. Certainly, you can have other people read your personal statements and give you feedback, let them know like what they learned from your essay or from your personal statement, and what then that information can be helpful to you because then you'll know like, okay, yeah, perfect. That's what I was trying to get across in my personal statement. And again, make sure you don't plagiarize. Copy and paste from another document and relax. This is one of many pieces of information that they consider when reviewing an application. It can only add value and an admission decision is not based on this section alone. So do not worry about that. Things to avoid. So make sure you avoid acronyms. Don't do quotes or dialogue. They were saying like they don't want to hear someone else's voice. They want to hear yours. This is not a place to do creative writing. This is not a place to do storytelling. Don't be repetitive. You only have 350 words max. So, don't waste your words with repeating what you're saying. Make sure you're answering the questions. Don't ask questions within your personal insight. And also, you don't need to retype what the question is that you're answering. When they print it out, that information will be there. And just don't use inappropriate humor. And I would just actually recommend staying away from humor, period. The humor of a teenager and the humor of like a 30 to 40 to 50-year-old reader are not the same. And also, as everyone knows, like it's hard to gauge humor when you're reading it. So like it's just try and stay away from using humor. It goes wrong a lot of times and you just don't want to put yourself in that position. So here is the first prompt. So describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. And, a leadership is more than just a title. So it doesn't mean that you have to be, the head of something or the captain of something or president of something. It could be within your friend group. It could be within your family. It could be volunteering or your job or even in class. Like maybe you're always the one volunteering to help, or like if you have a sub, maybe you're the one that quiets the other kids down in the classroom. So just be open-minded to what your definition of leadership is. So it's not always as narrow as we always think. You don't necessarily have to have an official title. What were your responsibilities when you had this leadership role? Did you lead a team? Did you help out or take care of your family? How did your experience change your perspective on leading others? Did you help to resolve an important dispute at your school or organization? So any of those would be topics that you could write on. Prompt 2, everyone has a creative side and it can be expressed in many ways. Problem solving, original and innovative thinking, artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. So things to consider. What does it mean to be creative to you? So it could be like maybe you're a creative problem solver, or maybe you're artistic, maybe you're a dancer, maybe you make amazing meals for your family. So maybe you're a chef. Any of those things I think can count as creative. So do you have a creative skill that's important to you? What have you been able to do with that skill? What have you used creatively to solve a problem? What was your solution? What are the steps you took to solve that problem? How does your creativity influence your decision inside and outside the classroom? And then does your creativity relate to your major, or does it relate to a future career for you? Prompt 3. What would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? So is there a skill or talent that you are proud of? And if so, share it with them. This is a chance for them to learn something about you that maybe they haven't found anywhere else on the application. Maybe there's not another spot on your application to share this information. Or maybe you included it in one of your extracurricular activities, but you haven't had a chance to shine enough in that section. And this gives you more space to share more about your special skill or your talent. So why is this talent or skill meaningful to you? What does the talent come naturally, or have you worked hard to develop the skill or talent? So again, this could be something that you've consistently been training for. Maybe again, you've been playing soccer, or you started playing an instrument at like age 7, and what does that look like? Does your skill or talent allow you opportunities inside or outside the classroom? If so, what were they and how did they fit into your schedule? Prompt 4. Describe how you have taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or work to overcome an educational barrier that you have faced. So an educational opportunity can be anything that has added to your value of your educational experience and help prepare you for college. So it could be participation in an honors program, or like AVID, enrollment in an academy that is geared towards an occupation or major, or taking advanced courses that interest you, just to name a few. It doesn't necessarily have to be an AP or honors class. It could be like a project lead the way class. It could be an ROP class. Maybe you decided to take leadership, like just an opportunity that you've taken advantage of. Maybe you're in the We the People course. So there's all kinds of things at Amador that you could have taken advantage of. If you choose to write about educational barriers you faced, how did you overcome them or strive to overcome them? Because sometimes you're still trying to deal with that barrier. So like what you've done so far and what you're still planning on doing moving forward. And then how does that impact you as a college student? Like, has that prepared you more for college? And when you get to college, how are you planning on using those skills? What have you learned from your experience? What personal characteristics or skills did you call in to overcome that challenge? And then how did the overcoming this challenge help shape you who you are today? Prompt 5, describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? So the challenge could be personal, or it could be something that you faced at your community or school. This is a good opportunity to talk about any obstacles you faced and what you've learned from that experience. So what was the challenge? What was the challenge significant to you, or why was it significant? Did you have support from someone else? Did you handle it alone? If you're currently working your way through that challenge, what are you doing now? And does that affect different aspects of your life? So for example, ask yourself, how's my life changed at home, at school, with my friends, with my family? So a lot of self-reflection in this question. Question 6. Think about an academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you have furthered this interest inside and or outside the classroom. So this could be based on something, maybe you took a particular class because you were interested in a particular subject area. How did you become interested in that area? Like, are you interested in a career that maybe one of your family members have, and so you decided to take certain classes based on that? Did you have a guest speaker that inspired you to pursue a certain class or a certain career? Maybe within one of your classes, you became interested in a particular area. So they just kind of want to know from you, like, how did you develop this interest? And then once you did, what did you do with it? Like, did you pick a certain class? Did you do volunteer work? Did you go to a summer program? Do you participate in certain clubs or organizations on campus or outside of school? And what have you gained from that involvement? So has your interest in the subject influenced you to choosing a particular major or career? Have you been able to pursue coursework at a higher level in this subject? So did you take something in an honors class, an AP class? We don't have IB, but like college work or university work. So did you click a class over summer? Or I know, a handful of you have applied to different summer programs, or you've done volunteering over the summer, or an internship. So you would include that as well. And then also there's the supplemental section for the personal interest statements. And so I know for a handful of kiddos, like maybe you had something planned, during the summer of 2020 that got canceled. And so you can always put that in the supplemental section also, or in the activity section. Like, I was planning on traveling to Mexico to volunteer, but it got canceled due to COVID. You could do that. Or, I had this internship lined up at this particular tech company, and then that got canceled. So I wasn't able to participate. So all that kind of information is also helpful to provide in context for your application. Maybe in another section other than your personal statement, but you could do it again in your supplemental or your extracurricular activity section. But here is where something has interested you and you were able to pursue that interest in either an organization or a class or an activity. Prompt 7, what have you done to make your school or community a better place? So it can encompass a group, a team, a place like your high school, your hometown, your home. You can define community as you see fit. So again, don't have such a narrow definition of what community is. Could be your friend group, it could be your team, it could be Pleasanton, it could be California, it could be the United States, it could be the world. Like, it just kind of depends on, what you consider your community. And just make sure you talk about your role in that community. So what was there a problem? Was there a problem that you wanted to fix in your community? Why were you inspired to act? What did you learn from your effort? How did your actions benefit others, the wider community, or both? And then, did you work alone or with others to initiate change in your community? Okay, prompt 8. Beyond what's already been shared in your application, what do you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for admissions to the University of California? So don't be afraid to brag a little bit. If you don't think you're unique, you are. There's only one of you in the world. So what makes you different from others? And what makes you you? Now, one thing they caution is that if you're answering this question, make sure you're talking about you. You're not saying like, well, I'm better than this person, or I'm better than this group because I've done this. Like, stay away from that, but make sure that you're focusing on all the great things that you do, and you want the essay about you and not distracted by other people. So from your point of view, what do you feel like makes you belong to one of the UC campuses? When you look at your life, what does a stranger need to know to understand in order to know you? I think that's a great way of reframing the question. if you choose this question on how you want to answer it. So if someone doesn't know you at all, like what would you want to share with them so that they understand you better? What have you not shared with us? So you can highlight a skill, a talent, a challenge, or an opportunity that will that you have to help us get to know you better. So I'm not going to read through these two personal insight examples, but once the slides are posted, you can kind of read through them. One example is what not to do, and the second example is how you should write it. So this one I think is a little bit more flowy, if I remember correctly. So you're wanting to make sure that you're kind of direct to the point. You're wanting them to know how many hours a week you're practicing, how many years you've been on a particular team or you've trained for something. And you want to make sure that you're sharing as much information as you can. What place did you come in when you were competing? So let's see, this is the one that I think you should be using as a positive. I hate to use the word example, but if you're looking for what they're looking for, you find out here how long they've been running for. They train 40 to 50 miles a week. They were voted captain. They coordinate workouts for 40 teammates, so you kind of know what their role is, where they stand. So top 5 out of 30 to 50 runners in the field, rank 4th in the school and 10th in the state. So the students are very competitive runner. What his daily routine looks like. So he's up at 5 a.m. Running 6 days a week. And then transitions to the community volunteering and business portion of his participation. So not only is he a wonderful athlete and a leader on his team, he also has used his team to help fundraise so that his teammates who couldn't afford the cost of the uniforms would be able to get those uniforms as well. So again, not necessarily an example, but something that you can use as kind of maybe a guide of the information that they're hoping to provide. So specific examples, showing the number of hours, the consistency, you know, how if you placed, for his example, like 4th in the school, you know, or in the school district, you kind of have an idea of how many kids he places 4th out of. So it gives you context. It lets you know how often and how hard he's training. So for this one, you're getting a lot of information. If you go back and read the other one, it talks about like how he's running in the morning and how it's cold in the morning and the sun's out. So it's very well written, but you don't get a lot of information from it. The additional comment section, this is an optional section, but it shouldn't be used as a continuation of your responses in the personal questions. It's also, they were saying, not a spot to list like your SATs or ACT scores. So they don't want you to use it that way. It is a place where you can provide additional clarification on important details in your application, such as honors, awards, and activities. Share information regarding a non-traditional school environment or unusual circumstances. So again, you could mention what COVID was like in your life while we were sheltering in place. Obviously, like we were all going through COVID, but you know, what COVID looked like sheltering in place in the Bay Area was different from what it looked like in Southern California. It was different than what it looked like in other parts of the country. So again, you're just providing context as to what that time frame looked like for you. You can describe anything else that you have not had the opportunity to include elsewhere in your application. There is a 550 word limit for both sections. In the end, there's one section that's the end of the academic section and one section that's at the end of the PIQ. So one section you can address anything that you feel like you need to in the academic section. So maybe, for example, maybe sheltering in place and doing online school, maybe your grades dropped. And you can explain that in the academic section. Or maybe going to school online, you actually really benefited from, and you can explain that there. And then any information that you feel like you need to explain in the personal statement section, there's a separate section for that. This is a good place to include the grading policy that we had in place for COVID during spring of 2020, fall of 2021, and spring 2021. And that information will have available for you so that you can include it in that section of the information. Some things that you can list after the PIQ section, how California has had a number of fires over the past few years and the impact that that's had on you and your family. There is the social justice movement. So there's just been a lot of things happening over the past few years. There's the protests going on right now in Iran. There's the war going on in Ukraine. So, local, state, US, and world, what's the word I'm looking for? Things that are happening have an impact on each person a little bit differently. And so based on what's going on in your world, those things may have impacted your major choice. So if that's the case, maybe this is a spot where you might want to share that information. Changes to extracurricular activities due to COVID. Again, you may not have been able to participate in something, or maybe you found a new opportunity while you were sheltering in place in COVID. So this is a section where you can list that. Did any of the things going on for you locally, statewide, countrywide, worldwide impact your decision to apply to a UC? And if so, why? Organizations that interest students or interests that you have at the UC, you can include that in there. And then how a student plans to engage with the community if admitted to the UC. So any of those things can go into that section. So the change of grading system. So this is for additional comments in the academic section. Again, these slides will be posted, so you can go ahead and copy and paste the statement into the additional comment section so they know what our grading scale was while we were sheltering in place. You can also mention too, I know that we came back March 2021, it was optional. So, if you came back part-time during that time, you certainly can mention that, or you can let them know that you were sheltering in place until the fall of 2021. Change in course availability. So if a course wasn't offered, or like this year, I know we had a couple courses, like French 5 was offered over at Foothill, but not at Amador. So you would have had to have a travel period. You can mention that in this section if you decided not to take it due to that reason. AP Spanish 5 is offered through PVA only. So again, if you chose not to take it due to that reason, you can go ahead and list that in there. Change in grade performance due to COVID or other personal experiences. If you had a school change or a name change, you can list that in this section as well. And then change to student environment or policies. So change to remote learning, and then hybrid or in person, all that information you can share also. Okay, academic history. So again, in the additional comments, these are a couple examples of things that you can list. The bottom one, unfortunately, that student had a serious car accident and had spent extended time in the hospital and for physical therapy. So that had an impact on their academics. And then this one is saying that one of the classes that they were selected into, how competitive it was to be selected to get in. So if you're in a class that required like an application, or you are selected to get in, like I would say leadership or We the People, you certainly could explain that and give that context in this section as well. Scholarship information. So there is the scholarship section. Unlike the CSUs, where you have to go on to the CSU website and complete a scholarship application for each CSU, the scholarship information for the UCs is embedded in the UC application. Make sure that you do the scholarship section last. So the UCs, recommend that you do the UC application in order. And part of that reason is because based on the information that you provide, the scholarships that you're eligible for will pop up. So if you jump around and you go to the scholarship section too early, you're not going to see all the scholarships that you could be potentially eligible for. So again, make sure that you're going in order on the application before you get to the scholarship section. Make sure you complete everything else prior to that. And the colleges that are looking to admit you do not have access to your scholarship section. So just want to let you know that the scholarships that you select are going to have no impact on your application. So these are some resources that are available for you as you're doing your applications. There's a link to the application. There's a link to the comprehensive review. So if you're curious how each school, each UC you're applying to, how they look at the factors, you can go ahead and click on that, and it has some information there. And this is the UC Personal Insight question guide that I was talking about earlier. That's one of the slides, but it's pretty small to see. You can use that link. Tips before getting started. So what kinds of information should you have before you start filling out the application? After you apply to UC, so that has some good helpful hints about some deadlines that you might want to keep in mind, and then also to make sure that you keep a copy of verification that you submitted your application, so you have that information as well. There is the application center email address and the 1-800 number. Like Kim said earlier in the presentation, counselors are available for extra help during Access in October and November, so you can sign up for that through FlexiSchedule. And then also we have our application night tomorrow night in the library from 5:30 to 7. So students, you can bring your laptop or your Chromebook and come get any questions that you want answered, or just work on your application in the library. Parents are welcome to come with their students, but and students can come alone, but a parent can't come without a student. So parent, if you want to come, make sure you bring your student with you. Financial aid night, the webinar will be released again, like we said earlier, on November 9th. So you'll have some information on how to complete the FAFSA. The UC deadline is November 30th. The CSU application deadline is November 30th or after November 30th. On the slide that Ben showed, the CSU said the first column are the ones that are supposed to have the November 30th deadline, and then the second column are the ones that are supposed to have after the November 30th deadline. But then as we were looking at the application, there were some on the second column that had a November 30th deadline, and there were some on the first column that had another deadline. So I would say, as a rule, for the CSU application, just submit it by November 30th and you won't have to worry about it. If you are wondering if one of them has a later deadline, you can certainly double check on the CSU application. FAFSA deadline opens October 1st and deadline is March 2nd. And then, like we said earlier, the Las Positas priority enrollment is spring of 2023. So thank you so much for your time and attention. You've got this. We're here to help support you. We know that this can be a stressful time. Make sure you take care of yourself. Just remember, you're all really strong applicants. The colleges know Amador. They know what a strong community we have. They know what a strong academic school we are. So just know when you're applying that they already know that, and know that you are just an amazing person who is going to have a great year next year at whatever college you end up attending. So just kind of keep that in mind. You're not defined by your test scores, your GPA, or the colleges you apply to or you get in or attend. Your family and friends still love you. You're still the amazing person that you are, regardless of where you get into and go to college. So just remember that, because I know it can get stressful and overwhelming, that you're already an awesome human being with a bright future ahead of you. And we're all rooting for you. We're all here to help. So just let us know what we can do to help support you. And thank you again for coming tonight. And we look forward to helping you through this process. Thank you for coming.